Welcome to the Open to Hope Show. I'm your host, Dr. Gloria Horsley, with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
These shows are brought to you by the Open to Hope Foundation as well as the Compassionate Friends. Well, Heidi, we've got a great topic today, and I know you're really going to dial into it because you and I have done a lot of yoga in our lives and our family. In fact, I even have a daughter who has a yoga studio, so your sister.
Absolutely. You got me into yoga a long time ago because after Scott died, you started doing yoga, right?
Right, exactly. I went to Canyon Ranch in Tucson, Arizona, and they taught me how to start doing yoga. So I've been doing it for 35 years or around there, right?
Yes.
Well, today we're going to talk about your body is your buddy, because I think that when people have lost a family member, we've all gotten into our heads.
Absolutely.
You know, oh, let's talk about the psychology, let's talk about the 4 stages or 5 stages or whatever, who does what when. But what about your body?
Yeah.
Your body's your buddy.
Yeah. Like you said, it's all about how are you thinking right now? What are you thinking about right now? Rather than, okay, let's talk about where we are feeling our grief. Where is it? How can we shift it? And how can we unlock the trauma that happens after a loss? Because it does get stuck, and I never really realized that.
Until we had Bessel on our show. He wrote the Body Keeps Score, and he talked to us. We got 3 shows with him that go to Open to Hope, and you can put in Bessel name, and you'll get 3 wonderful shows that we did with him talking about the Body Keeping Score.
Yes,
so,
and like you said, Mom, he wrote a best-selling book, New York Times bestseller called The Body Keeps the Score. He is a psychiatrist, and his name is Dr. Bessel van der Kolk. So please watch those shows because it will help you to move the grief physically through your body. And we're going to talk to 2 guests today that are experts on this as well.
Yeah, it's really fun to have some people here who are dialed in on the body, on yoga, and all that. How do you want to introduce them?
I would love to. So I know both of these guests, and I'm excited to have them on. Jason Wendroff-Rawnicki. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yes, you are.
I should have checked with Jason. Jason, hello again.
Yeah, hi.
So he is a bereaved sibling. His sister Lauren died in a car accident, and he is a certified yoga instructor. He co-founded Shine Yoga Center in New Jersey, and Mom, it got an award.
Yeah, I've read about it. It's an amazing studio, and they do essential oils too. He's interested in that.
So he got an award for one
about
of the best yoga studios in New Jersey. Jason leads workshops and retreats all over the place, all over the world, all over the country.
And we'll tell you how you can get in touch with these people towards the end of the show.
Yep, and then we have my friend Heather Stang.
And Heather.
Hi. She serves with us on the TAPS Advisory Board, and TAPS, for those of you that don't know, is the Tragedy Assistance Program for survivors, and it is military families. So she serves with me on that and with you on that.
Right. Bonnie Carroll started it. Great woman.
Yep. When we go to TAPS, she does a lot of workshops and shows people how to be mindful, how to do yoga, and how to do things quickly in their lives. And I want to tap into both Jason and Heather today to ask them if they can share some things with you all out there that you can do to change the way that you feel. Heather also has a master's in thanatology, which is grief counseling, for those of you that don't know what that word means. She's a certified yoga instructor, as is Jason. And she wrote a new book. She has a new book out there, and it is called Mindfulness and Grief. Mindfulness and Grief.
Right. And she also does a podcast.
Yes, absolutely. So, and at the end, we don't want to forget the closing of the show.
Oh, yeah.
We are going to have...
This is fantastic.
Yeah, a fabulous singer, Denise Ganulin, and she is going to sing I'll Meet You There. And that is a tribute to her daughter, Holland, and to all of those out there who have had a loss.
All right.
So that's it.
Yep, but we're going to start the show with a little clip from Bessel van der Kolk. So it'll get you kind of geared up a little bit and thinking about the body and the mind. And as we said, he did the Body Keeps Score, the book, and he's done research on yoga, Heidi. And one of the things he told us is that there's actually been research that shows that yoga is as effective as antidepressants. And we know there are a huge number of people taking antidepressants.
In some cases, more effective.
Right.
And more impactful.
Yep.
So.
All right, so let's take a look at that clip.
The greatest frustrations that I see in the tens of thousands of clinicians who I train around the world in the treatment of traumatized people is that their patients keep getting stuck. They getting stuck in having too many feelings, by being overwhelmed by fear and feeling shut down and unable to engage. So the great challenge in treating traumatized people is to help them to be focused and to be present in the here and now. And talking alone generally does not do that. And so what is necessary for us is to begin to explore how people can become still and focused and be present in the here and now. And there, a major avenue was learning about yoga and learning about traditions that are not Western traditions, not part of Western psychological traditions, but traditions that have been practiced in China and India and in Africa for thousands of years. And those are practices that have to do with, one, interoception, noticing yourself, feeling yourself, and learning how to quiet yourself down through movement like Tai Chi, through breath as you find in yoga.
All right. Well, there we are getting into yoga. Jason, let's start with you.
Sure.
And tell us a little bit about your story. You had a loss.
Yes, I lost my sister. It's actually, this was going to be the 20th year since she's passed. She passed in '98. And unlike you guys, I actually was practicing yoga before my loss,
Wow.
which was actually quite interesting. So I started, probably about 20, maybe 25 years ago, practicing yoga. And I really enjoyed the physical practice of it. Wasn't really into the necessary, I know it's a spiritual practice, but didn't really understand that part of yoga until my sister passed. And it really became very apparent to me that there was something greater out there that I needed to tap into. So that's what really got me into.
What a great thing to have had that.
I agree.
Yeah, it was.
Because I didn't have that. You know, I was athletic, I ran and exercised, but at least I was in my body a little bit. But to be able to go to yoga, did you find yourself going to it?
Yes, well, I was drawn to it mostly for the physical benefits originally, because I was a little overweight at the time. I was not eating well, and through the asana, through the postures, I started to really feel good in my body. And then I was like, wow, what else can I do? So I went from the yoga practice to, let's look at what I'm eating now. And then we go back and forth between being vegetarian and not. Right now I do a little fish and eggs, but then I was like, oh wow, what else can I do now that my diet is kind of under control and I'm feeling good in my body? And that's actually what brought me to also essential oils, because I wanted to kind of add and just let my life expand even more. So that brought me there as well.
So I'm wondering, Jason, when Lauren died and you were doing yoga before and you went back and did yoga, did you see yourself getting emotional? I've noticed when I do yoga that people get emotional after a loss and that they are surprised. They might start crying all of a sudden when they're doing yoga.
Not me in particular, but what happened for me specifically emotionally is I was more able to let the emotions move through me and not be scared of them. Because a lot of times what happens is when the emotions come up, it's like, oh my God, and it's so hard to become mindful when you're overwhelmed with that emotion. So it really led me to be like, okay, you know, like, this is part of the mindfulness. How do I just let it move out and through rather than just kind of trapping into it?
Did you stop at all? I mean, how many years has it been?
So, it's been about 25 years, and obviously we all go through moments where, you know, my practice is every, you know, 3 to 4 times a week, or I've now incorporated it into my life, so I do a little something every day just to make sure that I'm kind of tuned up. It doesn't have to be sitting on the floor and, you know, doing these things for an hour. It could just be simple closing my eyes and taking a couple of breaths. It could be something simple as appreciating what I have around me, just to keep me like connected and reminded.
I love that he's saying this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, Mom, people feel like, okay, we have to have this giant yoga practice. And
I'm
be
not
super
flexible enough to do yoga.
And you're saying,
Or
saying, no, you can do something little every day.
Yes. Even if it's just like we're all sitting at a red light and the guy in front of us cuts in front of us and we get really pissed off, our emotions come up. It costs us no extra time just to take 3 deep breaths and just kind of relax the body a little bit.
Well, let's talk about how people would get started a little bit in a minute, but let's talk with you, about
Yeah,
your
Heather.
experience, Heather.
Sure. So my first loss happened when I was 7. And so I didn't have, well, I think my mom and I had dabbled in yoga, but we weren't yoginis at that point in our life. But, you know, my story of loss really encompassed the whole family from my early age, because both sides of the family, both of my parents lost a sibling.
So you lost
when they were
uncles
young.
on both
I lost
sides.
uncles on both sides. And one by suicide. That was when I was 7. And so I always say I kind of grew up in this grieving environment, but we didn't really talk about it. And so I think the work I do today is very much a product of, you know, wanting to go back in time and help, but knowing I can't. So, you know, serving people who are here now. But I think some of that stress of growing up in a grieving family is what led me to yoga and meditation later. I got diagnosed with shingles when I was about 30, and I had no practice. And that's, a nurse practitioner said, you need to get a grip, go do some yoga.
Wow.
And within a
Smart
year.
practitioner.
I know, right?
And it was very much ahead of her time.
Yes,
And, you know, back then nobody was recommending yoga or meditation. I mean, I'm sure there were a few, but that was rare. And so within a year, I'd sold my business and enrolled in a yoga therapy program. And it was the practice of yoga. You know, you talk about how you were doing yoga for your body. It was the same for me. I was doing yoga to alleviate shingles. That was the only reason I was doing this.
Yeah.
But it opens your heart.
Yes.
And you start to connect, and that grieving child was in there. And I wanted to do something to honor my uncle, and that led me to do suicide
This is when you're
intervention.
30.
This is when I'm like 30.
And then you want to do something to honor your uncle.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
it's just amazing
Right.
how far these things go back when we stop and get
slow
in touch
down.
with our body. We
Yeah.
stop
No,
for a
absolutely.
minute and listen. It's amazing what we
And
find.
the other
Yeah.
thing is, Mom, is that these practices can be nonverbal. So you were saying, okay, I didn't talk about it, but then I went and I did yoga and meditation, and these are like ways of grieving that are not about giving voice to it.
Right.
It's doing other things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, I mean, we're talking about the body, but you can't discount the mind-heart-body connection. It's really that movement. So what we think, what we feel in our heart, and what we sense in our body are all connected. And when you try to separate any of those three parts, I think that's when we get into trouble, because there's a disconnect somewhere, and you need to let it.
The problem, I think, for people who are watching this that have had a recent loss is your mind's exploding.
Right.
I
Well,
mean, your
I was-
brain is so,
Yeah.
you know, redialing, you know, what could I have done differently? Why did this happen? Is it real? You know, waking up and thinking it didn't happen. I remember thinking the vessels in my head were going to explode.
Right.
I would have,
Yeah.
I could have, I should have. And I was going to ask Heather about that, because you have a meditation center in Maryland, right?
Correct.
So for both of you, and Heather, why don't you start? If someone comes in early on, like my mom says, and they have the monkey mind and they don't know how they're going to quiet it, what would
Let me say monkey mind.
Yeah,
Once more.
What is
Yes.
The monkey mind.
What is that, Mom? What is the monkey
The monkey mind is, it's just going. You're just going.
Right.
Yeah.
And as humans, our mind tends to go anyway.
Yeah.
But when we're grieving, our mind goes to some really painful places, because that pain is true and real. But what meditation can do is it can give you a break from the thoughts. And so when I'm working with someone in the early days, weeks, months, even year or whatever of grief, because we can't put a timeline on, you know, when that acute period of grief is, but when they're in mental distress and can't stop thinking or ruminating, I teach focusing meditations, saying, well, where can I put my mind for a little bit to give myself a break? And so it might be using a mantra meditation.
What's
Which
that?
mantra is like a fancy word for mind trick. It's tricking your mind to focus on something. And there's a lot of research that backs this up. There's some research that came out of Harvard in the late 60s that was based on transcendental meditation that showed if you focused your attention on one thing over and over and over again, which isn't easy, right? Because you're going to get distracted and you're going to wander off. you just, the second instruction other than focus is to bring your attention back. Just keep gently bringing it back.
And not judge it if you
And
find
not judge
yourself
it.
thinking about what you're going to buy at the supermarket later.
Right, but you will. But just to gently bring yourself back, that actually kicks in a biological response called the relaxation response,
Okay.
which is the physiologic opposite of fight, flight, freeze. And I often think of grief in the body. What causes us so much physical distress is that we're in this like prolonged state of stress reaction. And in addition to being up in our head, what happens when a lot of people slow down and pay attention is they might find that their muscles are tense because they're like this, or they go to the doctor and find out that they've developed some kind of heart arrhythmia. We tend to get sick.
Yeah.
And so doing a focusing practice, which could be meditation, it could also be running.
Yeah.
It could be yoga, it could be any
It could be
kind
golf.
of, or golf, it could be golf.
Single point meditation. My mother does it all the time.
Yeah, right. Actually, for me, when my stepfather died, he died a year ago,
Yeah.
and I walked in on first responders trying to resuscitate him. And I was practicing yoga and meditation at this point. My formal meditation practice went out the window. But
When
I
he died.
started when he died, like for about 3 months. I could not
Okay,
sit.
there you have it.
Okay.
You got the monkey mind
I
going.
the monkey mind.
And you've been in trauma.
I actually picked up a tennis racket and a tennis ball and went and hit balls against a wall and focused on the ball.
Wow.
And that became my practice.
So Jason, what are your thoughts?
So-
because I know you do a lot of this too. And
Yes, and I think at least moving around through
Yeah.
life, sometimes it's hard, like when that emotion hits us, to remember to like, oh right, I have to do my mantra.
Yeah.
So something physical is really a good trigger. So something I always have in my pocket is I have a little bottle of essential oils,
love
and
it.
and the one I have right here today is called Cheer.
Oh, I love this.
It's a citrus blend that is very uplifting.
I love citrus.
And with the science of the essential oils, it can help like act as that pattern interrupt. So you can
Where do
literally
I put it?
you can just put a little drop on your wrist, rub them together. But the key is to then smell it and bring it in.
Oh, this is amazing. I'm going to use this.
Oh,
on
I
the,
love
I'm going to use
this.
this on the subway tomorrow morning.
And the
amazing.
the importance of the
It smells so
smell.
good. It makes me smile.
Yeah, it absolutely. It's and the key with the smell of the oils
Yeah.
is that our olfactory system is directly connected to our limbic brain, which
Okay.
controls our emotion. So the research is showing that smelling an essential oil will shut down that negative emotional response and allow the brain to reprogram itself so that you can that it becomes more uplifting.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. So
it-
smelling this shuts down negative things in your brain, thoughts,
absolutely.
and reprograms it.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I like
That's
that
amazing.
idea because when they do the training, the rapid eye
Yes,
desensitization,
Yeah.
what they're doing is they're distracting your brain in a way, and
Right.
your brain isn't able to see the pictures like they have been.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
cool.
had this really wonderful experience. I have a little diffuser that I put in my car, and
love it.
and right before I was going on this,
A diffuser is
a diffuser is a little. It's a little device that puts the ions of the essential oils into the
Okay.
air,
Very cool.
usually using water. Like that's my favorite one, but they have a nebulizing diffuser that you don't need to use
and
water.
so it's a battery, so you can put it in
Either
your car?
battery or this
Or you
has a
can plug it in your
USB.
car.
This one has
Okay.
a USB, so I
Okay.
plug it into my
Cool.
USB part.
Your car must
Yeah.
smell good. Yes, I want to be in your car.
Right before I went on this car ride, someone really called me up and really annoyed me, and I don't like to feel anger very much, so I'm like,
Especially when you're driving.
yeah, but I like to
Right.
stew in it for a little while, as
Yeah.
my wife can attest to. And I was like, I really want to be mad at this person. So I was sitting in the car and I had my little cheer on in my diffuser, and within 5 minutes, I couldn't be mad.
That's amazing.
Like my mind, my brain, I felt the moment
Right.
that the switch turned off. And then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, the switch went back on. And I'm like, I feel like I conquered the world.
So when we end the show, before we do, Heidi, I wanted to get your best piece of advice for somebody, Jason, starting with you, who's had a loss.
Sure. I would say, like, when you start to feel those emotions sort of really bubble to the surface, just close your eyes for a second, bring your attention to your breath, and just take 3 deep breaths. I think our breath is the indicator of everything
Let's
that we've
try
got.
that.
Yeah,
3
let's-
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Sit up nice and tall, though.
Okay, nice
feel,
and tall.
Feel your feet on the earth. And then just take a deep breath in.
All right, I feel better already.
Yeah.
So my advice is when you're working with meditation for grief, and my number one rule is grieve your way. You know, grieve in the way you need to. Is understand that there's different types of meditation for where you are in your grief process or where you are in your day. You know, there's some days where that focusing meditation will work really well, and that is helpful when you're feeling overwhelmed and you need a break from emotion. But if you need to turn into your emotion, because we know grief isn't something we're going to stuff the rest of our lives or it's going to come out in really painful ways, is to, you know, look at other types of meditation like compassion meditation, or a meditation that actually lets you turn into the body where you can feel emotions in your physical body. And so know that there are so many different types of meditation and yoga out there. There isn't one answer. There's hundreds of answers based on where you are, just like your grief.
Great. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
I like that. And Mom, you can even put your like, for people out there that have never done yoga, you can even like go against the wall and put your feet up.
Yep.
Against the wall in an inversion
Feels
while
so
you're watching TV, whatever, and that will change the way you feel, right? Doesn't
Absolutely.
that decrease depression?
Hey, the last pose in yoga is laying on the floor, so I do that.
Exactly.
All right.
So if somebody's out there saying, I need the chair and I need the diffuser, where would they get it?
So there's they can contact
Yeah, tell
me.
us how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, so they could contact me directly at, should I give my email, I guess? So at jason@shineyogacenter.com, or you can go right to my website, which is mydoterra.com/shineyogacenter.
All right, and how do people get a hold of you?
Visit me at mindfulnessandgrief.com. You'll find many guided meditations you can download, articles. I do online groups, and you can email me, heather@mindfulnessandgrief.com. And look for the Mindfulness and Grief podcast wherever you like to get your podcast, or you can stream it off of the website.
Thank you guys.
And Heather's new book.
Yep, and Heather's new book, Your Body,
Yes.
Mindfulness and Grief.
And Grief.
So thanks everybody for watching this show today. And Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you've lost hope, please lean on ours until you find your own. Please let everybody know about Open to Hope, about the shows we have on, because they're all here for you, aren't they, Heidi?
Absolutely, and I think you said at the beginning of the show that we are in partnership with the Compassionate Friends, so you can find all of our shows on their site as well as Open to Hope.
So again, thanks for watching the show, and thanks for being our guest today.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Oh, this is great. Namaste.
Namaste and God bless.
I love that. A fabulous singer, Denise Ganulin.
This is fantastic.
And she is going to sing I'll Meet You There. And that is a tribute to her daughter Holland and to all of those out there who have had a loss.
Here I am in this dimension, you're on the other side. Sometimes the pain's too much, and I just want to hide. That's when I close my eyes, and I can feel you moving towards me. As I see you coming closer, I can almost hold you. That's where I want to be. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there, where rainbows don't need the rain, and I can be with you again. Oh, I'll meet you there, out in the great somewhere. I'll meet you there. Remember how we used to wonder when we wished on stars what was way out there, and how it felt like ours. It was a perfect world where we could see forever. Now I just can't stop believing, even though I'm grieving, I can still be with you. I'll meet you there, I'll meet you there, where rainbows don't need the rain, and I can be with you great somewhere. I'll meet you there. You'll always be in my life. Love never dies. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there.